Hi, everyone. We're just going to give it a couple of minutes just whilst we have people join the webinar. So I will just go on mute for 1 more minute and then we will get going. Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We are going to be going through the title of how to improve your email deliverability and engagement. Now, what I'll do is I'll go into our agenda for today's session first. Hopefully my screen is sharing and we have all technology working unbelievably smoothly. If not, I'll need people to shout fairly loudly. But if I get going and move into what we were going to cover in today's webinar, I will be sure, given that we in the UK have the Queen's Jubilee, and I know that in the US it is a happy Wednesday. So I want to keep this very short and sharp and cover off the key findings of the concept benchmark report from last year. So today I'll introduce the topics we're going to uncover, but also go through a bit about obviously the Lera concept story, whilst also then wrapping up and hopefully giving you in 15 minutes to 20 minutes or so time, a few key takeaways that are really simple, really basic changes or items that you should be thinking about adopting when it comes to improving email marketing, but predominantly email marketing to improve the engagement and deliverability of those emails to the inbox. So moving on to the next slide. As many of you may know, this is a Lera webinar based on the Concept product. For those of you who don't, Concept was acquired by Lera last year, and so that has moved the Concept world into the Lera family. Now, what does it mean? We as Concept find ourselves in the Firm Intelligence business unit or family of products. Firm Intelligence product family consists of other products such as Foundation, Optimizer, Concept, and Objective Manager. Lera are looking to bring technology together in order to bring greater efficiency to the daily role of a user. Concept now sits under that family and is designed to consolidate the firm's business intelligence under one roof. The benefits to the Concept world in the Lera world is that we continue to focus our relevance in the professional services sector. We are amongst a family of market-leading products driven or driving the intelligence of the business forward. We also allow ourselves to align ourselves closely with those Firm Intelligence products in the Lera family where data is flowing. We want to have consolidation of data from multiple products, multiple solutions that then give a greater insight into the customers or the clients and customers we work with. Benefits for Concept is that we also increase our resourcing capability. We expose ourselves to the bigger family of the Lera family, and therefore are able to partner and sister with those other partners in Foundation or Optimizer, etc. So there's been huge integration efforts made, and we continue to see the benefits of this as we move into half two of 2022. Now, the benchmarking report is something that Concept have been delivering consistently over the past 10 years plus. We look to cover off emails and clients volumes in a consistent manner every year to understand what trends, what changes have been made by our clients to enhance and better their email performance. Now, this year, we took a swab of 315 million emails sent in 2021 from roughly around about 175 to 180 customers that we have. Yes, we made some filters on those to ensure that certain internal communications or alert types weren't distorting the numbers, but the benchmarking report is there for us to look and identify those trends. Now, when I started in email marketing back in 2008, I was consistently advised to look at whether email would survive in 5 years from that point. I was also advised I should be looking for a role in social media or AI or the buzzy words that were coming at that time. Now I stand here in 2022 continuing to work in the email space, and I can confidently say that email remains reliable, it remains direct, and it remains a growing channel, especially over the last 2 years. We've seen an increase immensely of the number of emails going out from the system. So it's easy to say that actually email is not going anywhere. Email remains that direct, one-to-one communication type that allows you to gather the right insight and information off your customer base, whether they're viewing or reading or actually engaging in any of your content. Now today, rather than go through the report in every bit of detail, I'd rather share the report with you in the follow-up to this webinar and actually talk more about what we learned. What are the 3 key things that we can take away that are really simple to deploy? So if I move forward, you'll see that actually from the key view here, we've seen 2 things. We've seen improvements in a number of areas across our emails. We've seen delivery rates, open rates, bounce rates. They've all improved as volumes have increased and as communications have increased over the past 12 months. But we have seen a decline in click-throughs. So despite the increased volumes, through increased volumes, we typically see a challenge and a plateau of improvement on performance in an individual customer base. But because we've been growing the number of emails we can review, we've actually seen those increase, which is really interesting to see. And I really wanted to dive into that deeper and understand exactly why that might be, because it goes against the common trend of more volume, lower performance. Now, through the events in the world, we have seen the increased need to communicate in a direct manner, and email is still that most effective method. Part of those come from, the pandemic has increased the number of people working from home, / everyone working from home. And so we've seen a need for businesses to communicate more, whether that be internal, but also external, because face-to-face meetings weren't as readily available for customers over the past 12, 24 months. So we've seen that increase. So therefore, communications have been more under scrutiny to increase and get better. And therefore, we as Concept have been really focusing on how we can help get the emails to the inbox for the right people. So today we'll touch on a few areas around that, the understanding of that. But the benchmark report really highlights those areas. So if I now move forward into some areas that we can look at, the top reasons we can look at delivery and open rates and bounces are really around the deployment of things like DMARC and DKIM as authentication methods. So we'll touch on what that is, why that's happened, and what Concept have done to at least see that improvement. And if you aren't doing it, well, we should be having that conversation and really looking to do that. We also look at how the likes of automation has helped streamline and connect, be more, allow marketers to be more efficient, therefore get the right content to the right people at the right time. We've also looked at integration. So how can we look at the content that you as a firm are looking at and creating, and how do we get that to the right people, but also in a really efficient manner and not isolate it or silo it in just an email and send the email out. We want to look at how we connect your strategy, where it may be connecting the website or a CRM or a database, to ensure that content, data, they're matching up, being sent in an automated manner, not relying on people to send those out. And that is where we'll touch on and focus on today's session. So those are the key trends: improvement in delivery, improvement in open rates, bounce rates, great, but also declining click-throughs. So how have we looked at improving that? Now, delivery and open rates have been there with the DMARC. We will look to improve the deployed DMARC. Now, I'll cover off what DMARC means, but also, go back one stage. We'll also look at how we've deployed processes with our customers around soft bounce suppression management. So what I mean there is how do we manage those that aren't viewing the emails, and how does that impact your deliverability? We'll also talk about the unengaged contacts, the number of customers we have who have a huge number of unengaged contacts that just aren't engaging with any of the content or emails that are going out. What can we do with them, and how does that improve deliverability? How does that improve your overall engagement over time? We'll then look at the automation piece. So what moves the needle? So that's around subscription management, preference management. It's also around making sure we use dynamic content. How do we get the right content in front of the right people based on the data we have on those individuals? How do we then use automation to ensure that that content's getting to them, in the most time-efficient manner, in the most relevant manner, in the most targeted manner that they select or they would want to choose based on their behavior? Now, I'll start off with DMARC and DKIM. So this is fairly standard. We at Concept have been ensuring that we deploy. So we have what we call the best practice hygiene. So it's all about the health of bringing a customer on board and making sure that we do the simple things right from the beginning. We don't create a huge complexity around it. So when we bring a customer on board, we're always looking at, actually, let's just deploy DMARC and DKIM if we can, that is. And therefore, that is done. It is a hygiene level. We don't like customers to come on board and not have it. It is all about making sure that we do the simple things very well. So what is it? Well, it's a plain speak. It's a method of authentication that essentially validates the domain and the sending IP from an ESP. So because we're an email marketing platform, we're sending all of our emails from our IPs that we have on our system, our mail servers, but you as a customer would be using your domain to send those emails. Now, if your domain is coming from your IPs when you're sending your emails directly within the firm, and then suddenly another firm receives an email with the same domain and a different range of IPs, some systems may flag that and say, well, they don't marry up, and certain email filters might be smart enough to say they're not connected. What does DMARC and DKIM do? What it does is it makes sure that when you get those email filters, like a Mimecast, Barracuda, etc., they will validate it and say, yes, these two are signed off. They've had the rubber stamp of approval. Let them in and they'll come in. Now, what we've done over, obviously we can say all this is great, but actually it's about the data that suggests it works. So we went on a mission about 24 months ago to make sure that every new customer that came on had this set up. And then we ran a report last year as part of our benchmarking report to say, well, how effective has this been? So the impact has been pretty clear. We've got 5 firms here as an example. I will keep their names anonymous for the sake of privacy. But we have the average daily rate in the nice orange color there before they deployed DKIM, and then the average daily delivery rate that they have after they deployed DKIM. So you can see here on all 5 of those firms that we ran, and I think it was across around 250 campaigns from the system, every single one of them has had an improvement in their delivery rate. So this is them before and them after. Now, what is that on average? Well, we've seen DKIM and DMARC deployment increase by 4 percentage points. So for an average customer sending, around about 100,000 emails a year, what this would suggest is that we're getting into 4,000 more emails every year purely because we've deployed DKIM in a really simplistic, really easy way. Now, it shouldn't be costly. It shouldn't be something that you have IT fear. Now, there are certain requirements that have to be held, but if you have any questions, please raise them during this session, because I'd be happy to try and cover those off. But alternatively, if you're a concept customer, that is, you can talk to your CSM and they'll be able to get that set up and deployed for you, and you'll see the increase in delivery. So how do you do it? Well, simply we look at the SPF records, simple add txt domain to DNS, very simple to do. But then DKIM, you'll need to install the DKIM package that we have, very easy, but also something that we had just raised with IT. So first learning we've learned is that our data under concept over the 315 million emails we reviewed demonstrated an improvement in delivery because we have a greater swab of clients and customers using on deployed the DKIM than we did 12, 24, 36 months ago. So it's a really reassuring piece that we've got there that we want to ensure all of our customers have. Number two, how to keep your contact list clean. So the second learning we had was all about keeping data clean. So soft bounces on contacts or impact on delivery, impact the delivery reputation. So if you are sent an email and it soft bounces for whatever reason, it may be that your inbox is full or your server's offline, that will have a negative impact on the delivery of your emails, the reputation of your emails. So we typically see the industry average of around about 25 soft bounces before we start registering it as a no sending contact. That is what we in the industry, not we as concept, but we in the industry see. Typically 25 soft bounces. That means that that's 25 times that we're damaging the reputation, albeit very little, every time. Now, if we're doing that across the masses and they're just soft bouncing, that's going to hit the delivery or the engagement levels of your emails. We suggest actually removing. So through concept, for example, we can lower that threshold. So we've been working with customers. Obviously, it's a customer's decision to move this. We've been working with them to actually say, well, if they've soft bounced 5 times, should that be enough to say, actually, you know what, they're not getting these emails. There's something either wrong with their filters, or they don't exist anymore. They just haven't been deleted as an email on the system. So we say 5 times. Actually, if we remove that, we're removing 20 of those impact points to increase our reputation and increase that delivery chance. So again, what do we do? How do we look at this? So we at Concept use things like advanced searching or reporting that will pull out any contact that is being soft bounced or even unengaged. So it may be that they're not even soft bouncing, they're unengaged. So we look at unengaged contacts and say, if someone hasn't viewed, but they've been sent a number of emails, typically our threshold is around about 10 emails within a 3-month space. If they're viewing none of those emails in a 3-month time frame, then should you still be sending them content? Are they really still relevant? Are you wanting to continue to send? Because another part of the reputation of the email delivery is someone that's receiving an email and not actually viewing an email. So if we can make sure that what we're doing is ensuring we're only sending to engaged contacts, well, within Concept Send, we have a process or a workflow that you can set up that will just siphon out any of those contacts that are not engaged in any of the content. That can be a threshold or a condition level that you define based on the time frame and the number of emails that you want them to receive. Obviously, if they're receiving 1 email in 3 months and haven't viewed it, you probably would want to continue having them receive emails because you want to grow them, nurture them, and make them sign up to more types of content that they may not be signed up to within the firm already. So the point there is there are 2 from this area, there are two learnings. One is when you have soft bounces, how can we lower the threshold, filter them out so they are not receiving emails ongoing and therefore damaging that delivery, the IP reputation that the server has. And the second is for those contacts that are not engaging in any of the emails, how can we create workflow that siphons them out and allows you to target those that are actually engaged or actually reacting to some of your emails throughout the firm. The third learning we have is that of how to use dynamic content. Dynamic content is a very powerful piece, but I like to look at it and go, how do we use dynamic content more for firms, more for law firms in particular? So the starting point of that is around subscription preference management. I would encourage us to look at lowering the barrier to entry to increase the chance of getting people to sign up to the content, the relevant content they want to sign up to that you provide them access to. Now, you may say, we've got a preference manager on our site. That means that they can find it. If it's on the site, they can sign up to give all their details away and also sign up to every long list of area of interest that you may have. Now, that may take me 10 minutes to sign up to a preference page on the form. What I would suggest here is actually, let's break that down. Let's simplify that a little bit more. Simplification of that, we've had firms do this really effectively in the past, whereby they've taken the long preference form and actually used different types of data capture. So it's not that they have to go to this big form and give their whole details away and sign up to 25 different areas of interest. Actually, if they're in a specific area of your website, deploy a shorter, snappier form that is very specific to signing up to that area of interest. Therefore, the recipient isn't having to give 25 fields away. They can give just 3, 4 fields away. Now that can then add them to that marketing list, really simply lowering the time to complete, making it focused on that topic, and then you have them in your database and in a relevant marketing list. So ongoing, when you want to publish content on that specific area, that individual will receive it. So yes, there's a balance here of not just having one big preference manager. It's about having smaller specific subscription forms deployed on your website. It's also about using things like behavioral data capture. So something we do very commonly now is if we deploy we can deploy widgets on a website for a customer that says if someone goes to this this page or this section of the website more than 5 times, we'll pick that up and we'll prompt them to say, you've been here, sign up to this content. And that will add them directly to that relevant marketing list versus having them try to choose which marketing list is best for them. Make the behavior of the individual sign up to the relevant marketing list. So the contacts that have been, the clients and customers of ours that have been doing that really effectively have actually seen the engagement levels of their emails improve drastically. They've seen them go up through the fact that these people are signing up to something they want to sign up to in a very short, snappier way. So they've increased the database size, targeted the marketing list with relevance, and therefore sent them out. And they're, it's more relevant, gets better engagement rates. So we also use dynamic groupings of data on this. So the more we can capture on people, the more we can use a CRM or even concept send in a standalone format to segment and slice the data up to say this is the right contact to send this piece of content to. So the more you can get the right content to the right individual, the more engagement, the better engagement you get, and therefore obviously the better the deliverability is over time. Next, when you've done the preferencing, when you've done the subscription process and you've got the people engaged and you've got them signed up, we then want to start making sure that content is dynamic. So that may be that, post content to your website, make sure that content gets to the individual as quickly as possible with as little human input as possible. So if it's relevant, if content A is relevant to contact A, send them content A. If content B is relevant to contact B, send them content B. That is dynamic content. And there are a number of ways that we can deploy that so it doesn't become a hugely hefty piece of work to make sure that individuals are getting the right content and not just every piece of content. Now we look at the automation. So when we've got the right contacts in the database and we've got the right content to go to the right people, it's now about how do we automate some of that. So one of the common pieces that we've been looking at and where we've seen massive change and massive improvement in performance of email marketing over the years, this isn't just in the last 12 months, but over the years, is where firms have been looking at breaking down what marketing automation means. I then break it down into another level, which is content automation. I want to make sure that we are automating as much of the process as possible to get the right content to the right people at the right time. I look at this in three core areas, one being action-based or behavioral triggers. So what that might be is you might be on a website, you sign up to one of these smaller forms that say, I want to receive certain content. Now that will then trigger me certain emails that say, this is the latest digest of all that content on that topic of the firm, but also create suggestive connections to say, sign up to other areas and make it obvious and clean and clear to what they're signing up to. It may also be that you put triggers or you put forms for thought leadership, gated content on your website. Now, if you're gating content, yes, you're capturing someone's interest in a specific piece of thought leadership, and you're capturing that data into either the system or CRM, but you're also then triggering the content to go to that individual. So these are action-based triggers based on what someone has done with a form or a page within the website. We then talk about reactive content automation. Now, this is where you get the content, instead of creating huge amounts of process to go and create that piece of content, put it in a blog, then upload it, publish it in a website, then take it, put it into an email template, then find the list within a CRM, extract the list from CRM, put that into the email, send it out. We talk about trying to automate as many of those steps. So I guess automation here is all about automating pockets of human time versus trying to create this all-encompassing campaign marketing automation that people commonly talk about. That's daunting. That's a huge project. That's a big change process. No, let's look at these smaller pockets. Post-it note automation, I like to call it, where we're looking at post-it note, saying what do we want to streamline? We want to streamline A to B, B to C, C to D. We do not want to look at A to Z straight away. So how do we look at that? Reactive automation is a really good way of doing that because we can connect content being published in an immediate manner. The market we're in is content is king. Get the content to the right people as quickly as possible so it's relevant, it's timely, and then it can start wrapping the fish and chips later. The third area is that proactive. So that is where we're looking at our data, we're understanding the journeys of our individuals, our contacts, and we're saying, well, if they're going over here into the website, X number of times within a time frame, how can we start feeding them more of that content in a sequence or a journey that's going to not make them come out and buy something at the end of a shopping cart, but it's going to generate relationship strength and brand strength through them receiving the same type of content that's relevant to them that they haven't suggested we do. We have done it based on what we understand of that contact. And that becomes a big part of the firm intelligence story for Lera, because we want to understand our contacts and make more suggestive recommendations to what content they should be receiving. How much, what's the relevance on financial information, etc. We want to be more suggestive and therefore take this data, make it take action and put them into a journey that's getting them more content in the right area so that the brand is strengthened and the reputation and relationship of that contact is strengthened with the firm. So in summary, we've got those three areas of automation. They're all simplistic. They don't have to be complex. You can start off extremely simply. We don't have to reinvent anything. Simple examples of action-based is just putting gated content on your website, making those surveys, those form capture, the subscription process much more bite-sized and frequent within your website versus having them all point back to one big form. Make it more accessible, lower the barrier to entry. You might want to look at reactive and go, actually, there's a blog post. We've got blogs. How do I get a blog post out the door to the inbox of individuals in an automated manner? Well, we can do that just through blog connectivity. Now, if you want to get more powerful and advanced and mature in it, we can do that through connecting different preferences within multiple different categories of content on the website. That's all possible, but we can start much more simply just by connecting A to B versus the A to Z. And then proactive, really simple proactive automations, a bit like the one I like to talk about now is the consent compliance workflow. How do we get people who are being added into our database by lots of different people throughout the firm? How do we make sure as marketers that they are GDPR compliant? Well, we can run queries or we can run dynamic searches in CRM, sync that up to our system, and as soon as they're added to that query, we'll send them an email straight away and say, you've been added to the database. Do you consent? Yes, no. Whereas I've heard firms in the past where they've done this process manually at the end of every month, in order to make sure any of those contacts are then communicated to. Now that's manual, so time consuming. It's also time delayed. So if they get added on the first of every month, they are in the database at risk of being communicated to for a whole month before they've been consented or been sent that email. So why not make it immediate? Why not find that little pocket of human process and simplify it and automate it? And that's what automation for us is all about. The more we make automation, more digestible, the better a firm's performance in email marketing has been over the years. I'll now move on and just quickly recap that simply. So 3 areas, 3 learnings. We should really be DMARC every email that's going out of our system. We appreciate that's not realistic, but where a firm needs to look at is if they want to improve deliverability overnight, we should be deploying DMARC. That will enable us to get into tougher domains, tougher brands with bigger, stricter policies in place. We then look at how we clean our data. So let's remove those that aren't engaging, remove those that are soft bouncing, because they have a negative impact on our delivery and they don't ever have a positive impact. So there are simple, really easy ways, whether manual or automated, whatever system you're using, to actually review the data and clean out any soft bounces, clean out any unengaged data. And then finally, we look at the subscription process, the dynamic content. So make sure you make subscription and the gathering of data into marketing lists much more straightforward, lower that barrier to complexity, create more dynamic content so that people are getting more relevant content based on the data you hold on them. And then also let's look at simplifying the automation. So what simple automations can you do today that evolve and grow tomorrow into far greater, far more efficient ways of working? So that was everything I wanted to cover off today. Hopefully that was beneficial and you found some useful tips to take away. If you do have any questions, please post them in the chat now. But also, if you have any questions from a concept perspective, please get in touch and I'll be happy to have a conversation with anyone that has interest. I will move to questions and answers. So please feel free to raise any questions you may have. Oh, we got a question in. Yep. So this question, do you have any advice for the automation, given the challenges we face in losing control. So I think what I understand from that is automating can be seen as daunting within a firm because you do lose control. You're allowing automation to check the checks and balances of a piece of content. I think the answer that I have here is there are always ways in which you can simplify the automation. Now, you can put in these checks and balances. You don't have to automate the whole lot. You can put in checks and balances, whether you want to automate the creation of an email or to ensure that the email is rendering or looking the right way. You can have an approval process that when it's generated, it can be generated, and then it gets put in a queue system, and you hit approved, and it will then send. That's all something that we can do. So checks and balances are in place. Now, it might also be that you might automate some of your event process or automate some of the people that are receiving your content. You don't want to have competitors receiving. So yes, you can put in processes that say don't allow certain domains to sign up and receive the content. And then we got no second question in here. How hard is it to deploy DKIM DMARC? I would be looking at this as, from my simplistic view, it's a very simple piece. It's fairly standard in the space today. We do it for every customer, as I said earlier on the call. To look at the actual technical complexities of it, we would, it's something we'd want to raise with your IT. But absolutely a must do from my perspective. It's just got absolute overnight returns on improving your deliverability and getting more emails to the inbox of people, which is what the services that we are here for. Now that is every question we got so far. So I will, unless one comes in the next second or two, I will call it a day. Hopefully everyone found that really useful today. Please feel free to get in touch with any questions and follow up if anything comes to mind after. Otherwise, for all of those in the UK, please have a great Jubilee Bank holiday weekend. And for all of those in the US, I look forward to catching up and speaking to you in due course, and enjoy your weekend in a few days' time. Thank you all, and speak soon.